All right. Well, we're back for episode 6 at Quinta Brewing Company, and I'm Benjamin Anglin, better known as Jamin at Team 1010. And next to me is Pete Ahern, our local brewmaster from Ballast Point. And then behind us we've got the owners Scott and the brewmaster Ryan, and we're gonna do a blind taste to start off with, and they're gonna talk a little bit about what's going on here at Quinta Brewing Company.
So they've poured us something here. It's nice, little bit of a golden color to it. Really nice looking creamy head, nice lace
Smells
to
great.
it. Yeah, let's see here.
Tastes like more.
Tastes like more. Okay, I get to geek out now. So I'm definitely this is an IPA, right? We're
Right.
tasting here. Lots of good strong hop bitterness. Nice, really nice kind of dry bitter mouthfeel at the end. If you're an IPA junkie, you're going to get the bitterness that you want. Really nice hopping. Some citrus, some resinousness. Let's see here. What are you getting out of that there? Maybe some kind of grapefruit notes are pretty strong in that.
A little bit of floral.
A little bit of pininess.
Smells great.
And then something else.
Has a great finish to it. It's
yeah, kind of a really floral kind of back note to that underneath all that. Citrus comes up first, and then kind of floral spicy. Is there a blend in there? Any European hops in there? Is it all West Coast?
The guy who brewed it
Okay.
answer that.
And then the finish is, like I said, it's really kind of a nice mouth-filling, dry. It doesn't disappear quickly like some IPAs do, so I'm not sure. I'm guessing you're using, I don't know what yeast you're using, but I'm guessing it's not the Chico, or is it?
Yeah,
It is the Chico.
clean.
Is it?
So
Okay.
for yeast makes a good IPA.
It is the Chico, okay.
It's all West Coast,
Okay.
Northwest hops.
Got it.
In there. Try to hit all the hallmarks of what those hops give you,
Sure.
and what you might expect from those in a beer.
What are you using?
We use Columbus, Chinook, and Palisade.
Okay. Got it. So some big meaty hops there.
Yeah. I like Columbus and Chinook a lot. They make for a good dry hop. Especially I think Columbus makes for a nice dry hop. It's also pretty fantastic bittering hop for hoppier beers like that. I think they have a nice bitterness to them.
so
Awesome.
I'm gonna.
Thank you
cheat
for
here.
pouring this.
Yeah. Is this the? I have 2 to pick from. Is this the Indian Canyon? Then.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Indian Canyon IPA.
This is the Indian
That
Canyon IPA, 80 IBUs. Yeah, so it's a big monstrous IPA that your IPA drinkers are gonna love.
And for all of us novices, the IBU means.
Oh yeah. So we got this nice little chart back here. So and you probably see this at a lot of your microbreweries, and you guys probably they're in TV land, or what is it, internet land. ABV, that first thing, ABV percentage is alcohol by volume. That's the percentage alcohol. So for a reference, Budweiser is 5%, 5.0 is kind of pretty much standard American beer. So that's, and then anything stronger than that is getting strong. So IPA 7% is about IPA kind of level. And then real strong beers, you're gonna be looking up in the 10% level. And there's some brews that are pushing way past that now. IBUs is, well, you want to tell what IBUs is?
Yeah, international bitterness units.
International bitterness units.
Standardized measurement of how bitter a beer is.
Right. So if you're looking at something below about 18, it means you probably can't really taste much bitterness in it. So your typical big mass market Bud Miller Coors is probably around 16, 18 IBUs. And once you're in the mid-20s, you're starting to get a little bit of bitterness. Once you're up in the IPA land, you're up in the 60, 70, 80, 90. And then once it gets up to about 100, it's not really measurable. You really can't taste much difference anymore at that point. It's just bitter.
Yeah.
So is there something that when you look at something that's over in the 100, close to 100 or something like that, or over that, is that obviously? I mean, is there something that's made?
There are.
That's what.
Yeah.
I've seen 120.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that say that. The thing is a lot of that is just calculated IBUs, and not necessarily. So when they did the math on how many. Oh, if I throw in this many hops, this is how bitter it's going to be.
Right.
And they'll label it as such. It may not necessarily be
marketing
tested.
Yeah.
That much because it is hard to get bitterness in the beer when you get into that higher level. It's hard to get it. To
get more extraction out of it. Yeah.
So not every beer that's in that necessarily would measure that at all.
Okay.
Right. 80 is pretty close to top of what you're actually going to be able to taste and perceive.
That's generally what's commonly current scientific knowledge tells us right now.
Okay. And typically then IPAs are, I mean, you're not going to find something else other than an IPA that's going to have a high bitterness. Is that?
No, there's other styles that generally have higher levels of bitterness, and that wouldn't be like considered hoppy beers. Most commonly would be like imperial stouts are generally in that upper range of 80 plus IBUs. American style barley wines would probably be that high. So and usually that's just the strength of the beer, alcoholic strength generally, and requires kind of that much bitterness to balance the beer basically.
Right.
So the higher alcohol percentage is also going to be the higher IBU?
Yeah.
Is that?
Generally.
Probably the highest perceived bitterness you're going to get is in IPAs because the beer is lighter and drier. It doesn't have a huge amount of malt body. It doesn't have a lot of other things that are competing with the hops. IPA is supposed to be like hop showcase.
Yeah. So you could have two beers that maybe have same number of bitterness units. You could test them, but one might even have more perceived bitterness based on kind of how the beer is brewed.
Okay. And so when Indian Canyon, is there, when you look at what's on your list, is there ingredients from the valley that you're putting into this, or just kind of like you're heading around taking a hike in Indian Canyon and you're like, man, it is,
Well, we've tried to name all of our beers and kind of use local flavor in terms of things that connect with the valley. But the beers we've done so far are pretty much traditional ingredients, and they just don't grow here.
Okay.
You're not going to see a lot of barley grown here, hops grown here.
No.
In our coffee porter, it was roasted locally, but obviously coffee beans aren't grown here as well. But so far we've not been using local ingredients just because the traditional ingredients aren't grown here.
Okay.
You guys are going for a more traditional kinds of beers.
Some more traditional styles, I guess you might say.
Yeah, I'm a traditionalist. So
Yeah.
I like that in beer. So anyway, we're here with, does Scott want to take a moment and tell us a little bit about, we're at La Quinta Brewing Company, we've tasted some beer. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the business and how long you've been open and
Well, we've been
what
open
you're up to?
For about 2 months. We started delivering kegs and opened the tasting room here about 2 months ago. We actually started working on this venture a little over a year ago. It sounded like a good idea one night, so...
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
And took us probably 8 or 9 months to get up and running, going through the various channels of the county and all the various agencies. But we're up and running now.
Great. Well, and if you check out their website on, I think it's La Quinta Brewing,
LaQuintaBrewing.com.
LaQuintaBrewing.com. You'll get a chance to also see there's quite a few restaurants that have their pools there. So you'll get a chance to see what other flavors, other types of brews that they have out in the valley. But we're here in the tasting room, and it sounds kind of quiet because they were nice enough to let us come in on their normal day when they're closed to the public. But Wednesday through Sunday they're open, and you can see up on the board up there they've got some you've got a couple of the core beers. And they pour, I'm sure they're not going to probably, well, I won't speak for this, but I'd say maybe they might not exactly pour 5 ounces. You might get a little bit better pour. But it's an awesome tasting room here. You could probably get them to get a tour also. So pop your head in and see how they do things here.
And they've got some nice growlers to go.
And,
no bottles yet, but you can get one of these bad boys filled with 64 ounces for a very good price.
Yep, and they've got merchandise too, that shirts, hats, types, things like that. I'm sure that Gina is going to get some shots of that a little bit later. So tasting room's open. It's various hours, I think, on the website. It was
3 to 7 Wednesdays and Thursdays, 2 to 8 Fridays, and noon to 6 on the weekends.
All right. And let's see, what else is? So you've got some. You're throughout the valley. What's new for La Quinta Brewing then? I mean, it's 2 months. But you're just blowing and going through the valley, because I saw you have quite a few restaurants that have the pool. So
right, we're in around 50 bars and restaurants right now. We've got a couple what we call Brewers Reserve beers on tap here that you can only get in the tap room. They're small batches, kind of experimental batches. Probably in 2 to 3 months, we plan on having some beer in cans, and soon thereafter in bottles.
Okay.
I'm jealous. I think it took Ballast Point 2 years to get up to 58 restaurants and bars. So
that's cool.
So yeah, you guys are doing great.
And I also saw on the website you've got something unique in that you can take your beer out to events and give tastes. Can you explain that a little bit? I don't want to.
We've got a trailer, a refrigerated trailer, which we call a Brews Traveler. And it's got 4 taps on the side of it. So we've gone out to different charity events and poured beer.
Yeah, you guys had it out at Props. It's a big yellow thing. You had it out at Props and Hops.
You can. Big banana. You can't miss it.
Very cool.
All right.
And is that scheduled? Is that on the website where it's scheduled so that people can go out and see where they can get a chance to?
I don't know if there's any scheduled events coming up, but we announce it on our Facebook page whenever it goes out.
So they should like you on Facebook.
Absolutely.
Cool. Very cool.
Wow.
And let's see. So we've got the patch of the core
I think
beers.
it's time to try another beer.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. All right.
We've got another one, and I know.
What did you guys pour us this time?
This is. You can just take a smell. You can tell this is the coffee porter. Is that correct?
And that's coffee with a K, like the coffee in Palm Springs, right?
Yes.
And do they roast? Is this a special roast they make just for you guys? Or is it their house roast?
This is their what is it called? House bold roast, I want to say. It's like a blend of I think it's a blend of 4 different kind of beans or whatever.
Yeah, it's got a really nice, rich roast coffee flavor that really I think goes well. Really goes well with
this
the beer.
Is awesome.
Yeah,
this is great stuff. So caffeinated? Is this going to keep me up?
I mean, there's probably is some caffeine. It's caffeinated coffee, so
right,
there is some in there.
Okay, there you go.
I don't think it's much. It probably wouldn't be more than your average cup of coffee.
It's not like Four Loko.
It's not juiced up like that.
So when you're doing something like this, Ryan, I know that you're making a shake at home, protein shake or something like that. You can add some coffee. I mean, like instant coffee, and it's going to give you that coffee flavor, and you just need to add a little bit. So coffee has, roasted something for you. Is it like in a liquid form, or do you put the beans in, or how does that process happen to get that?
Right. They give us whole beans.
Okay.
We actually have them crush them coarsely for us, and then I add it to the bright tank and age the coffee on it for a couple days.
Okay.
Or age the beer on the coffee. For a couple days, and then carbonate it and keg it.
So when you say a couple of days, is it kind of like you give a little taste and you're like, okay, it's about where I want it to be, or is it I want to pull more flavor out of it, or
right? But with 36 to 48 hours, it's usually done. Yeah, that's what I've noticed. So I would say that it picks it up, within a couple days. It picks it up pretty quickly.
So it's like a bright tank dry hopping with roasted coffee.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like dry hopping.
I wonder,
Okay.
so it's all a cold
All right,
treatment.
bright
Okay,
tank,
sorry.
dry
But-
hopping. That's gonna be like, because I'm just saying this is awesome. And
So the
you're
beer's
gonna-
done. So the beer's done fermenting, and you've moved it off the yeast. So you're leaving the yeast behind. You're putting it in a tank to age, and you're adding some coffee directly to it. So there's no heat. It's not, the coffee's never getting heated.
Right.
So it's a really fresh coffee aroma. That's not. It's not a cooked coffee. It's just a raw. It's like sticking your nose into a
bag of coffee.
Into a bag of
right,
coffee.
it does.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
Which is great.
And
This
is
is
it, so
fantastic.
it is a bright tank? Is that kind of why you? Or
Bright is because the beer's not cloudy. It's not hazy. So it should be, at that point, your beer should look nice and clear and pretty.
Right.
So that's why it's called a bright tank, because the beer's bright.
And then the dry hopping is.
Yeah. Dry hopping is a technique used to generally in IPAs and pale ales, other hoppy beers like that, where you add hops directly to the fermenter after fermentation.
Okay.
So adding coffee is to the beer after fermentation is kind of similar. It's not
Kinda
exactly.
similar.
Obviously, it's not hops.
Right.
It's not dry hopping, but
Right.
it's
The idea is it's not, the hops aren't getting any heat. They're not getting any, none of their flavors getting cooked. It's a completely fresh flavor
yeah.
because it's not getting any heat. It's cold.
Yeah.
So and you know, some of the things that we've talked about in previous podcasts is, you know, how you would pair things with. Now, this is, I mean, to me, this is like dessert. I love this.
Or breakfast.
You know.
Yeah, there you go. You want to
That's
waste your day?
Yeah, exactly.
There's days you want to waste.
Right. I mean, you know, would you? I mean, put this with some food, or is it kind of more something afterwards that you would?
It can be both. I mean, it works. It definitely, yeah. I mean, it definitely works well with dessert. I mean, if you think about if you were having dessert at a restaurant, and a lot of times the dessert menu includes coffee.
Right.
So
right.
obviously, this beer is going to work well with that.
I would have this with creme brulee or a slice of pie.
Yeah, it'd work quite nice or something very sweet. I mean, it's got a good amount of bitterness to it because of the, you know, it's beer, so it's bitter, and then coffee also is bitter, so
Right.
it kind of would balance something very sweet.
If you thought about,
But you could definitely
Wait a
pair it,
second.
I think, with normal food as well. I mean, porters generally pair well with, you know, barbecue foods. And,
I'm thinking like a big old peppered, like either a you know, a peppered steak, or even like a peppered flash seared ahi or something like that. I mean, that's going to pull that out.
I'm thinking you could put vanilla ice cream in here and make an ice cream float.
yeah, it should probably could.
I think that would be good.
That would be
Nice
great.
scoop of vanilla in there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. That would be good. Even how about some
Next week at the Quinta Brewing Company, ice cream floats. No, I'm kidding.
That would be fun. I think it would be good.
We don't have a freezer. You'll have to bring your own ice cream.
Probably aren't licensed to serve ice cream either.
That's true.
That might be the bigger
There you
problem.
go. There's a Rite Aid down the street. You can buy some ice cream and bring it in yourself.
Yeah.
So one of the other things that when we were talking about things that are happening here is that are people in Valley, can they come and kind of book out the tasting room and have a function here and have a? I mean, you have enough room for it. Is that something that's on the horizon to do? Or?
Yeah, we have probably enough room for maybe 30, I would say, and we are closed 2 days a week, so we have time and space for events.
Yeah, kind of a. I mean, I don't want to, you know, exclude women, but it could be like a man's day type. You know,
This is kind of a man's cave here.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. The colors are great. I mean, it's very Tuscan style, so I think anybody would feel comfortable here.
This is the great beer history of Tuscany.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right.
Right,
So what have you poured us next?
Poolside Blonde.
And that's something I could drink poolside. It's a very, very crisp,
Like,
not super bitter, but a nice crisp kind of almost German, like a lighter pilsner kind of feel, but a little ale sweetness to the back, the palate.
this would be good in a can by the pool.
We agree.
No, this is great.
Coming in a can to a pool near you.
And so why did you decide this one would be a good first beer? Is this the first one you're going to can?
It is. Part of it's timing. By the time we start canning, it'll probably be about 100 degrees out here. It's season. There'll be a lot of people in town. There's hotels with pools that sell beer, and it's got to be in a can. There's golf courses with beverage carts. So multiple reasons.
And this would be a nice beer for a 110-degree day.
Absolutely. If you go back and check some previous podcasts, Pete had mentioned that actually there's this fallacy that craft beer in a can is hypocrisy. But he said that's one of the best ways to do it is to put it into a can. So that was
less oxygen. It's going to last longer. It's going to have a better shelf life. Less light. Yeah, you're not going to get any light. You're not going to get your hops all skunky. It's a better format, but like we said in episode 537, the first episode, it got a bad rap because people drink beer right out of the can, and it's got a rap as being a way to drink cheap, crappy beer. Right. But it's not. It's a way to drink good beer.
So was this one of the first? Was this actually your first brew that you did then?
Actually, our first 4 core beers were right around the same time. So all 4 came out pretty much one after another.
And as a brewmaster, is one more fun to brew than the other?
No, I mean process-wise, they're all very similar. I mean, the IPA has a few more hop additions, so it keeps you a little more busy during the boil. But other than that, they're all very similar. Okay. The process is the same. Step 1 to step, whatever it is very similar.
So how'd you guys get into beer? What's your story with?
Well, I was a home brewer.
Okay.
I was a home brewer, and as I said one night, thought this would be a great idea. But I can brew on a scale of 15 or 20 gallons, not 900 gallons. So I needed somebody, and I found Ryan, and the rest is history.
It's actually easier to brew on the scale of 900 gallons once you've installed all the equipment and trained yourself and all that.
He didn't let me in on that secret.
I mean, effort-wise and or maybe back-breaking work-wise, it's usually nicer to brew on a larger scale because you kind of have to have pumps and things like that to do it, and where on a small scale you don't necessarily have to have them, so sometimes you end up lifting things you shouldn't lift because you can.
12-gallon glass carboys.
Yeah, exactly.
Feared for oh my god, I don't want to drop this thing.
Yeah.
And in your brewing process, how long, when you talking about the boil and all those, how long is that process for you here?
Like on a brew day, it's 8 to 9 hour day, I guess, from starting to finishing, cleaning everything up and making sure the kettle's clean and all that stuff.
And you can do that all in one day. Is that right?
Yeah.
A brew? Okay.
Mm-hmm. And we usually will brew our fermenters are twice the size of our brew length, so we usually end up doing two batches. So I'll brew one, and then the next day brew another one. Okay. The same fermenter.
Okay.
And that's pretty typical. So the beer's really started rolling, the fermentation's going, and then
and
then when the second one hits it gets going pretty quick.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And how long is that fermentation process then? Is that?
For our strain of yeast we're using, it's about a 7-day.
So that's kind of all taking place.
Give or take.
Yeah. Okay.
And then it usually has another week and a half of conditioning time, dry hop and cold time before it goes into the bright tank. So from brew day to package day, it's probably 18 days at the most. Some beers are a little, that would probably be for the IPA, whereas the wheat and the blonde would be a couple days short of that because they don't have any dry hop in them.
So you've got your core beers, and then you've got a couple like the coffee porter and things like that. Which are the, I think, what do you called? The Brewers, is that the Brewers?
The Brewers Reserve Series, yeah.
Okay. So, in that recipe head up there, what are you thinking? What's on the horizon for some new things you want to try?
Open to a lot of things. We just, whatever comes up, I guess. Right now we have a saison in the pilot, one of the pilot fermenters. That'll be the kind of the next thing to come up. I got a batch of double IPA that we've done before that's going to come out before that. That's been dry hopped and is ready. It will be coming out soon, and that's been on here before. But then the next new thing would be that saison.
And for those that aren't familiar with that, what is the saison?
It's a Belgian farmhouse style beer. So it's one of those Belgian beers that's somewhat loosely defined and has kind of somewhat of a broad range of interpretation. But generally, they're kind of described as rustic, I guess you might say, is usually the common.
Usually
word
has a fair amount of wheat in it, a little higher alcohol, a lot of spices frequently.
Yeah, they can be spiced. Some of them aren't. And mostly, I think the only common thing I know about saisons is the yeast.
Right, it's got a Belgian
yeast. You generally
yeast.
use a funky kind of earthy yeast strain that kind of is the one thing that keeps them somewhat common, or is a common theme between most of them. But yeah, I do see a lot of them. They generally use some other grains in addition to just barley, wheat and rye and things like that.
Cool. I don't want to steal the marketing thunder here. Is that our I don't want to let out the secrets because they need to come in and taste some of these things, but we're looking at doing something special.
They can't just let us taste for them. And
I
tell
know.
them what it's
I would like that.
then
I mean, these are everything we've tasted has been awesome.
They can just take our word for it.
Sure. You kind of like doing something down the road for special things for either kind of our own Desert Oktoberfest or Coachella Fest, Stagecoach.
One thing we got is we've got a couple bourbon barrels and we filled it up with that coffee porter.
Nice.
And they'll be aging, so that could be a first anniversary beer.
Very cool.
Nice.
Very cool. I know that Stone has done some vertical types of ales. Is that thoughts of doing?
We've been open 2 months.
Yeah.
I know.
We do. This is week
you guys,
one.
I mean, look at
Week two, this is week
when
three.
we were.
But that would
when
be
we
cool.
when we had a break, I mean, P was saying that at Ballast Point, how long it took before they got to the stage where their La Quinta Brewery is currently at. So, I mean, you guys are just way ahead of the game. So I thought you got all these,
Yeah. Well, it's the whole kind of business of craft beer has been alive for quite a while now. So there's definitely a lot of these things have been done and have kind of come along over the last 10, 15 years or more. So it's kind of easier to be ahead of the game these days.
Right.
I think every brewery probably starts out and has aspirations of like, oh, we're going to do an anniversary beer every year, and we're going to barrel age every single one of our beers and release that once a year, and we'll do a seasonal, 12 times a year. And so I think the fact that a lot of these things have been done, most breweries kind of probably start out and think that, hey, this is the roadmap. Like we'll just do all these things.
Right.
And it's a lot for one guy to do.
Right.
It is.
It's easier when you're bigger
Well,
and you have
it's
a team
like,
and you have a.
Exactly. And of course we could brew all these beers, but we still got to sell them somewhere too.
Right.
Exactly.
So right now, being 2 months in, we're kind of like, we're kind of growing our current customers and all that. And we don't want to, I can't just go in there and brew every single day and have all this beer and these kind of projects works well for breweries that make hundreds of thousands of barrels a year and are selling beer throughout the entire country. But for us, we might need to stick to what our customers are currently buying.
I will compliment you on that. You've got your core beers. You've really done a great job. I mean, everything we've tasted has been phenomenal. So I think that I mean that's you've kept that focus, you know. The sales guy, I'm like, hey, all these ideas, I can't stop it, right?
We have a sales guy like that too.
Yeah. See that?
Yeah.
You know, but for those that are, you know, taking a look at the podcast or seeing it on YouTube, is that you got to come down to La Quinta Brewing Company. They've got a great tasting room. You know, everything we've tasted has been phenomenal, and I don't know what.
Let's try another one. Try to drink. Okay, so what are we having now, guys?
The 111 Pale Ale.
111 Pale Ale. And that's because it's 111 IBUs?
Not exactly.
Not exactly. Oh,
No,
wait a minute here.
it's very
Sticks
smooth.
With the desert-centric naming.
Highway 111.
Hi.
It's very smooth.
Oh, that's got a nice finish to it. That's really, it's a little different. It's
It's kind of almost. I mean, it's got a great caramel color to it. So I don't know what you know, what do you put in it to
nice
bring
American
that out,
hop.
that color out?
The color probably comes from a pretty good percentage of biscuit malt in there. So that gives you kind of that toasted, you know, aroma.
so biscuit's always something I've used in kind of small quantities. So
Yeah.
so it's a
No.
lot of like when I get that, if I'm looking for that color, I'm going for like 40 Crystal or Munich malt. But so
Right.
biscuit's sort of an interesting choice, which
Now,
probably making that taste a little bit.
and biscuit is
drier
just
than
not
it
like
would
a
be with-
biscuit like I would,
Do you think?
you know, get at the cafe up the street or something like that, right? I mean, is
Yeah.
that because I know when we did the standards, you had some of the pellets. And
Different.
So,
Those were
so-
hops. I don't think I brought any malt to that.
But
I
so
didn't-
the biscuits would be for
It's a type of malt that's
Okay.
just called biscuit malt.
Like the
it's
little-
a Belgian.
bring some malt out here for us to chew on. This guy needs to chew on some malt.
no.
Probably some up there on the up on the.
No, I don't think you've never do you know what we're talking about with malt?
I usually only put malt in my shake.
Why don't we? Do you guys want to bring some malt out?
Yeah, we
Let him
got
taste,
some.
chew on some malt.
We can
Get some.
Yeah, let's get some biscuit and some pale and some
Thinking.
couple fun ones here.
Oh,
We're gonna
this
taste
is,
some malt now. Yeah.
I know we got at least.
Just
very
realizing,
least
like
an
we're
open
talking about
packet.
malt, you have no idea what we're talking
I
about. There you go. Okay. It's not malted milk.
So that adds that.
It's Whoppers.
that
It's we brew
caramel.
with Whoppers.
Yeah, it gives a
Big bucket, and we
kind of
scrape the
bready-
chocolate off.
That kind of bready, those notes and
Mhm.
those light kind of toasted.
Biscuit. What's the color on
I think it's
biscuit?
20.
Okay, so it's pretty low. It's a pretty low
Yeah,
ro-
it's
low
low.
color.
Um,
Yeah.
much higher than your average kind of base malt,
Mhm.
but low for some of the colored specialty malts and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that, but there's a good percentage.
All
So
right.
that's what gives it that, and then I think the rye.
So this is.
Here you go,
what is
Anthony.
that?
That's malt. Okay, now chew on some of that. Just- And these are barley seeds, right? So they harvest barley and they put water on it and they give it some oxygen. So it's a little seed of a plant, and the seed just begins to start to grow a root, and the seed is about to begin its life, and then they kill it and they dry it, and this is just pale malt, so they pretty much just dry it, very low color, very low heat. And this is what, for some beers it's 100% pale malt. For some beers, maybe, very few beers have less than about 20% of that. Well, unless they're using other kinds of malt like wheat or. Right. And then to get dark beer, they cook the crap out of it, and they get it to a really hot temperature.
Pretty much burn it.
They pretty much burn it, and that's how you get like the porter we had earlier would have had.
So this is the
Right,
same
that would've
that's been cooked.
Same thing that's been cooked in a kiln to a very high temperature.
to a very high.
And so that's kind of one of the main
Right.
ingredients that would be in the porter to
And-
give it that color.
And then in between these two, they have malts that are kind of
Everywhere.
stewed and they're cooked to, they give more of a red or an orange or an amber color and more sweetness. So there's a whole, how many malts do you guys have in the back? A lot, right? There's bags of, there's big 50-pound, 50, 55-pound sacks.
We don't, I mean, we don't,
Right.
we don't have a crazy amount of different beers, so.
Right, that's true.
We're
Yeah.
not that crazy, but.
We had a homebrew supply store, so we had every dang thing.
We're probably, whereas, a homebrew store is going to have like 100, we're probably more in the range of 10 different malts or
Right,
something.
right.
So.
But so it's actually pretty tasty to just chew on.
It
isn't
is.
Yeah.
So the hops comes from, these, specific regions. So is the malt, it kind of varies from season to season, or is it just something like, okay, we have typical malt places that come out of Omaha? I don't know,
Right.
so I'm
Something like that. I'm pretty sure most of the maltsters that we get our malt from kind of grow them, and they have preferred growers, I'm sure. That
Okay.
They come from very specific
Right.
regions.
Well, everything in beer is high latitude. So hops grows, Oregon, Washington. Barley tends to grow Montana, Saskatchewan, Alberta, Dakotas. It tends to be, everything in beer is like 40 degrees latitude kind of things.
Right.
okay.
So,
Yeah.
Cool.
So most of our malt comes from, a lot of it comes from that
Okay.
area. We do use some European malts as well, like the biscuit, and we use some other Vienna and Pilsner malt, which would be German.
So when you were talking about doing a more like the Belgian, was it the double IPA? I think that you were talking about. Was that right? The Belgian or Belgian
the
style.
Saison and then a double IPA on.
So is that typical? If you want to make it authentic, is that you want to use those particular ingredients from Europe? The hops or the malt or those types of things, or is it you're just making that style? And you're
Right.
replicating that particular.
It's probably going to depend on the style to a certain degree, but if you're making a traditional style that's, traditionally comes from a certain area of the world, if you want to make it traditional, you probably want to use ingredients from that area of the world. That being said, there's definitely room for interpretation, as far as the individual beer you're going for, trying to brew. And also because there are very similar products that are made by, say, a Belgian malting company or a German malting company or even a U.S. malting company. They definitely have some overlap in the types of malts that they make. So, you could definitely make a Belgian-style beer using American ingredients, at least as far as the malt and hops go.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to the yeast, that's kind of a hallmark of Belgian type beers, is that particular yeast, the yeast strain.
No, that doesn't mean you have to get it from Belgium.
No, it just means that at some point it's generally considered a Belgian yeast, and there are certainly yeast companies that sell.
I think we're going to do a yeast episode soon, so we'll get all into yeast.
Okay.
But we should do a malt episode.
So that kind of leads us to let's go back to what's happening locally and some craft beer news. I know over the last episode we talked about, you had some exciting competition that you were going to be.
I got to go down.
Give these guys a chance.
I got to go down over the
rest
holidays and brew on. So Ballast Point we've talked about the new restaurant, the new Ballast Point Tasting Room and Kitchen in Little Italy in San Diego. And they have a very small, 5-barrel system down there that's just for, they call it the R&D system, research and development system, and they've asked employees if they want to be on a team to just brew some test beers. So there's about 80 teams. So my team brewed January 3rd down there. We brewed a northern German style Pilsner, but threw some West Coast kind of dry hopping on it. So I'm really excited to taste it, and it's I think just hit about 10,009 finishing gravity, so I think it's done fermenting about yesterday, and give it a couple days to rest, and then we'll diacetyl rest.
Anyway, it's scientific stuff.
We're gonna drink it in about 3 weeks. So
Okay, so
should be
so yeah.
a northern German style. I spent a lot of my childhood growing up in Hamburg drinking really bitter North German beers, so I kind of wanted to go that direction. So,
Did you just say you grew up in your childhood drinking beer?
yeah. Didn't you guys? It's Europe.
Thought I missed that.
It was
It's
Bud
Europe.
Light.
It's Europe. It's Europe. And then what else? And then I got to visit the new Ballast Point Spirits. So Ballast Point also has a distillery, and they just opened. There's a new law started January 1, allowing for micro distilleries to actually have tasting rooms. So before that, we would say, hey, we got a distillery. You can't taste anything here, and you can't buy anything here. But here's the distillery. Now go somewhere else and buy it. They still can't sell any bottles there, but they can offer tasting. So they can offer 6 1/4 ounce pours. So a normal shot is 1 ounce. So it's a shot and a half you get with 6 different things. And when I was down there, they were tasting the Old Grove gin, the Fugu vodka, the Devil's Share whiskey. So they had some good stuff down there. That tasting in little shots. First time I've ever had warm gin in my life. It was good. It was surprisingly good. And then I'm just giving too much Ballast Point news. But we about 2 months ago got the new 100,000 square foot new production facility, because the one at Scripps is pretty much maxed out, like over maxed out. So they moved the new 150 barrel German copper clad brew house into that on last Tuesday and Wednesday. They moved the new brew house in. So very exciting. So big growth going on. That should be in production by June, July.
So for us locals, in the valley here, is that types of education or things that we can do for learning more about craft beers. Obviously, coming to
Drink local.
Watch, drink local. Come to the tasting room and get educated on some of the different things. But any recommendations for the consumer that we could learn more about craft beer?
Come to our tasting room.
Perfect.
And come talk to us.
Perfect.
We're here every day, and we love to talk to the people that come in here.
Okay.
All right. Should we wrap up with a taste of the nut brown?
Okay.
I think so, and I think we're a wrap, right? Okay. We're gonna try the nut brown now.
It's a brown ale that was aged on cacao nibs and vanilla beans.
Oh wow. Okay, I'm getting a little cacao. I'm getting a little hint of licorice kind of character in that.
Yeah, I think it picks it up with cacao nibs.
You guys got to get down to the tasting
Oh
room.
wow.
That's all I'm trying to tell you. This stuff is phenomenal. I mean,
So I think everybody knows what a vanilla bean is. Tell us a little bit about cacao nibs.
It's essentially chocolate that's completely unprocessed.
Okay.
So it's the start of chocolate. So they harvest the beans and then they would process that into what most people would know as
Right.
chocolate. So this is kind of very raw.
But you get chocolate, but it's a lot more complex than that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. The
Some of that-
processing part kind of takes some of that out, mellows it out. I think. I'm
Wow.
not a chocolate expert, so.
Yeah, right. No, but
I
that's
don't-
intense.
But I know what they do is they take that and process it to kind of kind of neutralize some of the bitterness because it's
Right.
normally it's quite bitter actually.
Right. Now, chocolate beans are usually they're fermented, right? There's a lot of microorganisms that kind of attack them. And so is it before that or after that?
I believe it's before that.
Okay.
I think it's very, I mean, they probably, as far as I know, they just kind of remove the shell or something like that. And so this is.
Wow, you're the food pairing expert. What would you put this with? What would you guys eat this? What would you guys drink this with?
I don't know. It's kind of a newer one for me, so I haven't really. I don't know if I've thought about it enough to know what I would put that with.
Carnitas.
You know what? That would be. That'd be with a little.
I don't know why that popped into my head, but some like cilantro and lime and some carnitas.
Yeah.
Somehow that just seems like it would work.
Yeah.
I think so.
We'll have to try it.
Yep.
All right.
Food generally, mole usually has chocolate, raw chocolate in there.
Yeah, maybe something with some Malay, sounds good. All right, well, guys, we really want to. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I just was going to say is that one of the misperceptions is that this might be not in the center of the valley, which is contrary to what people think about when they think of La Quinta Brewing Company. So, Scott, can you tell us, where you're located? Because it is so easy to find.
Easy to find.
People should be here.
We're right north of the 10 freeway, just west of Washington, in the Washington Business Center on Wildcat Drive.
Wildcat. It's great. Great street.
There's wildcats walking by as we talk.
Yeah. No, it is very easy to get to right off the 10, so it's not. I know when I first heard about this, I thought, oh, it was in the Cove in La Quinta, which is it's not so easily accessible. So you got to get down here. That's all I have to say. They have some phenomenal things that they're doing here.
You guys, thanks for sharing your beers
Yep,
with us.
thank you.